Welcome to Life Stories, where we share heartfelt tales of resilience, love, and transformation. In today's story, we follow Emma, a young mother facing overwhelming struggles after being abandoned with her newborn son, Noah. Just when all hope seemed lost, an unexpected act of kindness from a stranger, Grace, changes the course of their lives forever. This inspiring journey shows how compassion can build bridges, mend hearts, and create a legacy that touches countless lives. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to Life Stories to begin today's incredible story. Let's dive in. I stood on the worn pavement outside the maternity ward, cradling my newborn son, Noah. The overcast sky above Charleston seemed heavy with unshed rain, mirroring the storm within me. The past few weeks had been a whirlwind of emotions, challenges, and relentless uncertainty. Noah had arrived prematurely, and with his early birth came an avalanche of fears and questions about the life I could offer him. The maternity ward, which had felt like a sanctuary during those fragile first days, now seemed cold and unwelcoming as I stepped outside. Its walls, once a refuge, felt distant, almost indifferent to the struggles I faced. There I was, without a home to return to, without a job to support us, and with no family to lean on. It was just me and Noah against a world that seemed cruelly indifferent to our existence. I sat down on a weathered bench near the entrance, wrapping Noah tightly in the only blanket I had, a simple but warm one that had been gifted by a kind nurse. I whispered to him, my voice trembling. "What are we going to do? My little one. Where can we go?" The words stung as they left my lips, the weight of my inadequacy crashing down on me. I couldn't stop the pangs of guilt that swept over me. "I'm so sorry, sweetheart," I murmured, my voice breaking. "I can't give you a safe place to live right now, but I promise I'll figure this out." Noah's tiny closed eyes were the only sign of peace in the chaos of my life. His quiet breaths were steady, a stark contrast to the storm of fear and uncertainty raging within me. I tried to stay calm for his sake, but my hands betrayed me, trembling as I held him close. Lost in my thoughts, I barely noticed the shiny black car that pulled up in front of me. The door opened, and an elegant woman stepped out, her presence immediately commanding attention. She was middle-aged, dressed impeccably, with an air of quiet authority. Her gaze fell on me, a mix of curiosity and compassion in her eyes. "Hello," she said softly, her voice warm yet confident. "I couldn't help but notice you and your baby. Are you okay?" For a moment, I was too stunned to respond. Strangers rarely stopped to offer help, and certainly not someone who looked as refined and composed as she did. I hesitated, unsure whether to trust her. I don't know," I finally replied, my voice thick with emotion. My throat tightened as I tried to explain. "We have nowhere to go. I've lost my job. My rent expired. And now," my voice faltered, and the words dissolved into quiet tears. The woman, who introduced herself as Grace, sat down beside me, maintaining a respectful distance. She didn't press me for details but listened attentively as I poured out my heart. Her presence was calming, as though she carried a kind of strength that could hold someone together when they felt like falling apart. Grace acknowledged how strange her offer might seem coming from a stranger, but she explained that she wanted to help. She had resources, she said, and couldn't bear to walk away from a mother and child in need. Her words lit a tiny spark of hope in my heavy heart, but I couldn't silence the voice of mistrust in my mind. "Why would you help us?" I asked, my voice cautious. "You don't even know us." Grace smiled gently, her eyes meeting mine with sincerity. "Sometimes, life gives you more than you need, and it becomes your responsibility to share that with others. I've learned that true wealth is measured by the difference you can make in someone else's life." Her words lingered in the air, soft yet powerful. Despite my hesitation, I could feel her kindness cutting through the walls I'd built to protect myself. Still, doubt lingered. I don't want to seem ungrateful, I said, my voice barely above a whisper. It's just, I've been deceived so many times before. It's hard to trust anyone. Grace nodded, as if she understood. Trust is never easy, especially when life has taught you otherwise. But I'm here to offer you and Noah a safe place while you figure out your next steps. No strings attached. You can take your time. And when you're ready, you'll decide what's best for you both. I looked down at Noah, his peaceful face untouched by the worries of the world. Could I take this leap of faith? For his sake. I had to try. After a long moment of silence, I finally spoke, my voice trembling with equal parts hope and fear. I don't know how to thank you. I'm scared. But if you're sincere, I'll accept your help. I promise I won't make you regret this decision. Grace smiled, a warmth radiating from her that I hadn't felt in weeks. It's settled. Then, let me take care of the practical details. You and Noah need comfort and safety right now. Leave the rest to me. Her words, simple yet reassuring, lightened the weight on my heart. As she helped me to my feet, I felt a fragile sense of hope for the first time in what felt like forever. Maybe, just maybe, this was the beginning of something new for Noah and me. The car ride to Grace's home was quiet, punctuated only by the soft sounds of Noah stirring in his blanket. My heart pounded with uncertainty. Who was this woman? Really? And why would someone so refined, so obviously accustomed to a life far removed from struggle, go out of her way to help a stranger? I glanced at Grace, who was focused on the road, her posture poised and her expression calm. The faint scent of her expensive perfume filled the car, an aroma so different from the sterile hospital smell that had clung to me for days. Every detail about her seemed to reinforce the vast distance between our lives. Charleston is beautiful this time of year, she said, breaking the silence, her tone light but inviting. I think you'll like the area where I live. It's quiet and safe. Perfect for a fresh start. I nodded but couldn't bring myself to say much. My mind was too preoccupied with questions I didn't dare ask aloud. Where was she taking us? Would she change her mind once we arrived? I looked down at Noah, his tiny fists curled against his chest. His fragility reminded me of my duty to be strong, even if I didn't feel it. When we arrived, the sight of Grace's home took my breath away. It wasn't just a house, it was a mansion. Its grand facade surrounded by manicured gardens that seemed untouched by time or trouble. The late afternoon sunlight bathed the property in a golden glow, making it look almost like a dream. Grace led me through the front door, her heels clicking softly against the polished hardwood floors. The interior was as grand as the exterior, with high ceilings, intricate moldings, and tasteful furnishings. Artwork hung on the walls, each piece carefully curated, and the scent of fresh flowers filled the air. You'll stay in the guest suite, Grace said, her voice warm but matter-of-fact. It's upstairs, with plenty of room for you and Noah. I've had the staff prepare a crib and some essentials for him. Her words washed over me, and I struggled to comprehend the generosity being extended to us. As Grace guided me up the sweeping staircase, I couldn't help but feel out of place, like an intruder in a world that wasn't mine. The guest suite was beyond anything I could have imagined. The room was spacious, with soft, blue walls and a large bed that looked far more comfortable than anything I'd slept on in months. Next to the bed was a beautiful white crib, adorned with a delicate mobile of stars and moons. Everything about the space felt thoughtful, as though someone had taken the time to consider what Noah and I might need. Grace stepped into the room and gestured toward the closet. There are some clothes in here for you, just basics to get you started. And if you need anything else, don't hesitate to ask. The staff are here to help, but I'm always available too. I turned to her, overwhelmed by the kindness she was showing. I don't even know what to say. This is more than I ever could have hoped for. She smiled gently, her eyes soft with understanding. You don't need to say anything. Just focus on getting some rest. You've been through enough already. After Grace left, I stood in the center of the room, holding Noah close as I took it all in. The reality of our situation began to sink in. This was real. For the first time in weeks, I felt a flicker of safety, a sense that maybe things could get better. I laid Noah in the crib and watched as he settled into the soft bedding. His peaceful expression brought tears to my eyes. I whispered a silent promise to him: no matter how difficult things got, I would fight to give him the life he deserved. Later that evening, as I explored the mansion to familiarize myself with our new surroundings, I found Grace in the library. It was a cozy room filled with bookshelves that stretched from floor to ceiling. Their contents a mix of leather-bound classics and contemporary novels. Grace sat in a plush armchair, reviewing a stack of papers. But she looked up and smiled when she saw me. "Do you like the house?" she asked, her tone casual but genuinely curious. "It's beautiful," I replied honestly. "But it's a lot to take in. I don't even know how to begin thanking you for everything." Grace set the papers aside and leaned forward slightly, her expression serious but kind. "Emma, you don't need to thank me. I've been where you are, lost, unsure of what's next. Someone helped me once when I needed it most. And now it's my turn to pay it forward." Her words struck a chord in me, and for the first time, I felt a glimmer of understanding about who Grace was and why she had chosen to help us. As I returned to the guest suite that night, I couldn't shake the feeling that our lives were about to change in ways I couldn't yet comprehend. There was still fear and doubt. But alongside it was a growing hope that maybe, just maybe, Noah and I had found a safe harbor in the midst of our storm. The days that followed were filled with cautious adjustments. Noah and I began to settle into our new surroundings. But it still felt surreal. As though at any moment, this fragile bubble of safety might burst. Grace was patient and kind, checking in daily but never intruding. She had an uncanny ability to sense when I needed space and when I needed reassurance. One sunny afternoon, while Noah napped peacefully in his crib, I decided to organize some of the things Grace had provided for us. In the process, I came across a framed photograph tucked into a drawer in the guest suite. My heart sank as I recognized one of the faces in the picture: Ryan, my estranged husband. He stood next to a young woman, their arms draped casually around each other. The setting was idyllic, a beach at sunset, and the smiles on their faces exuded intimacy. I turned the frame over and found an inscription: Olivia and Ryan. Cape May. Olivia. The name sounded familiar. And then it hit me: Grace had mentioned her daughter. Olivia. My breath caught in my throat. Could it be the same Ryan? The man who had abandoned me when I needed him most? And if it was, what was he doing with Grace's daughter? A rush of anger and disbelief coursed through me, followed by a deep sense of dread. This couldn't be a coincidence. That evening, after Grace had retired to her room, I stayed awake, grappling with the weight of what I'd discovered. The thought of confronting anyone about it filled me with anxiety, but I knew I couldn't keep this to myself. Noah deserved better than silence. The next morning, I found Olivia in the garden, sitting on a stone bench under a sprawling oak tree. She was striking, with auburn hair that caught the sunlight and a graceful demeanor that hinted at both confidence and vulnerability. I hesitated, unsure of how to begin, but the photograph in my pocket reminded me why I was there. "Olivia," I called softly, my voice betraying my nervousness. She looked up, her expression curious but welcoming. "Yes. You must be Emma," she said, her tone polite but guarded. "My mom's told me about you and Noah." I nodded, gathering my courage. "I need to talk to you about something important." "It's about Ryan." Her face faltered slightly, her composure slipping just enough to reveal a flicker of unease. "Ryan? What about him?" I pulled the photograph from my pocket and handed it to her. She took it, her eyes scanning it carefully before she looked back at me, confused. "What's this about?" Taking a deep breath, I explained everything: the relationship I had with Ryan, how he abandoned me when I became pregnant, and the struggles I'd faced since. I told her about Noah and how Ryan had refused to take responsibility. Olivia's expression shifted from disbelief to anger as I spoke. "Are you saying Ryan is Noah's father?" "Yes," I said, my voice steady despite the emotional turmoil inside me. "I didn't come here to disrupt your life, Olivia. But you deserve to know the truth. Just as much as I deserve closure. Ryan can't keep running from the consequences of his actions." For a moment, Olivia was silent, the weight of my words settling over her. Then, with a deep breath, she said, "I need to talk to him. I need to hear it from him." Later that day, Olivia confronted Ryan. I wasn't there to witness it, but the tension in the house was palpable. When Olivia returned, her face was a mix of hurt and determination. She confirmed what I already knew: Ryan had admitted the truth. Grace, ever composed, took the news in stride but with a seriousness that hinted at her disappointment in Ryan. "He won't disrupt this house," she said firmly. "Noah and Emma are part of this family now, and they deserve peace." Though Olivia seemed shaken, I saw in her a strength that mirrored Grace's. She told Ryan their relationship was over, unwilling to tolerate his dishonesty and abandonment. That night, I sat by Noah's crib, reflecting on how quickly life had shifted again. It wasn't easy to face these truths, but for the first time, I felt that Noah and I had allies in Grace and Olivia. The road ahead was uncertain, but I was no longer walking it alone. The morning after Ryan's departure, the house seemed quieter, yet there was a sense of clarity in the air. Grace had reassured me that Noah and I were part of the family now, and her words carried a weight I couldn't ignore. I wasn't just a temporary guest anymore, I was someone they had chosen to embrace. Flaws and all. Olivia, however, was struggling. She had ended her relationship with Ryan, but the betrayal lingered like a shadow over her. I often found her in the garden, tending to the roses or simply sitting in silence. Her usual confident demeanor had been replaced by something softer, more introspective. One afternoon, I decided to join her. Noah was napping, and I saw it as a chance to connect with her, to bridge the gap that Ryan's actions had created between us. "Mind if I sit?" I asked gently. Olivia glanced up, her face pale but calm. "Not at all." I sat down beside her on the stone bench, the fragrance of the blooming flowers surrounding us. For a moment, neither of us spoke, and the quiet was filled only with the sound of a gentle breeze rustling the leaves. "I'm sorry," I began, my voice tentative, "for everything Ryan put you through. It wasn't fair to you." She turned to me, her eyes reflective and thoughtful. "You don't need to apologize. If anything, I should be apologizing to you. I didn't know what he'd done to you and Noah." She paused, her hands twisting nervously in her lap. "It's hard to believe I let someone like that into my life." I shook my head. "It's not your fault. Ryan, he's good at hiding his true self. I believed in him once too." A silence stretched between us, but it wasn't uncomfortable. It felt like an unspoken understanding was forming, a bond rooted in shared pain and resilience. "I want you to know," Olivia said finally, her voice steady, "that I'm here for you and Noah. I don't know what the future holds, but I want to do whatever I can to help you both find stability." Her words brought tears to my eyes. "Thank you, Olivia. That means more than you know." From that day on, our relationship shifted. Olivia wasn't just Grace's daughter, she became a friend. Someone who understood the complexities of my situation and was willing to stand by me. Meanwhile, Grace continued to be a constant source of strength. She spent her evenings in the library, poring over papers and books, but always made time for me and Noah. She shared snippets of her own struggles, revealing a depth to her that I hadn't anticipated. "I was in your shoes once," She told me one evening as we sat in the cozy warmth of the library. I didn't have a mansion or a family to fall back on. But someone helped me when I thought all hope was lost. It's why I do what I do now. It's why I couldn't just walk past you that day. Her honesty moved me. It wasn't just charity that had driven her to help me, it was empathy. Born from her own hardships. As the days turned into weeks, the mansion began to feel less like a place of luxury and more like a home. Noah thrived under the care and attention he received, his tiny smiles lighting up the room. Grace and Olivia doted on him, and their laughter filled the once quiet halls. One evening, as I tucked Noah into his crib, I reflected on how much had changed. My heart felt lighter, and for the first time in a long time, I allowed myself to imagine a future that wasn't defined by fear or survival. Grace had shown me that kindness and compassion could rebuild a life, and Olivia's support had reminded me that even in the wake of betrayal, trust and connection were possible. The road ahead was still uncertain, but I no longer felt like I was walking it alone. Together, we were building something stronger, a family bound not by blood but by love, empathy, and the shared determination to create a better life for Noah. Life at the mansion settled into a peaceful rhythm, but it wasn't long before that rhythm was disrupted in a way none of us could have foreseen. One quiet afternoon, as we sat together in the sunlit dining room, Grace suddenly placed a hand on her chest. Her face grew pale, and a pained expression replaced her usual calm demeanor. "Grace, are you all right?" I asked. Rushing to her side, she attempted to wave off the concern, insisting it was nothing. But her voice was weak, and her movements were sluggish. Olivia, sitting across the table, immediately recognized the seriousness of the situation. Without hesitation, she grabbed her phone and called for an ambulance. "Better safe than sorry," Olivia said, her voice trembling despite her composed exterior. The moments that followed were a blur. Paramedics arrived quickly, their efficient movements filling the house with a sense of urgency. Grace, ever graceful even in distress, tried to reassure us as they wheeled her out on a stretcher. "I'll be fine," she said softly, her words meant to comfort us more than herself. Noah, too young to understand what was happening, clung to me, sensing the tension in the air. I whispered soothing words to him, though my own heart was gripped with fear. At the hospital, Olivia and I sat side by side in the sterile waiting room, our shared worry uniting us in a way words couldn't. Olivia's hands trembled as she fiddled with a bracelet on her wrist, a habit I'd noticed when she was anxious. "She has to be okay," Olivia said finally, her voice barely above a whisper. "She will be," I replied, trying to sound more confident than I felt. "She's strong. Stronger than anyone I've ever met." Hours passed, each one heavier than the last, until a doctor finally emerged. His expression was serious but not grim, and I clung to that glimmer of hope. "She's stable," he said, addressing both of us. "She suffered a mild heart attack, but we were able to treat her in time. She'll need rest and observation, but her prognosis is good." Relief washed over me like a wave, and I saw Olivia's shoulders relax for the first time all day. We embraced, a silent acknowledgement of the bond that Grace's love had fostered between us. When we were allowed to see Grace, she looked frail but peaceful. The room was quiet, filled only with the steady beeping of monitors. Olivia sat by her side, holding her mother's hand tightly, while I stood nearby with Noah, who reached out curiously toward Grace, as if sensing his small hand. Grace opened her eyes and smiled faintly. "My little Noah," she murmured. "You're growing so fast." Her voice was soft but carried the same warmth that had welcomed us into her life. As we sat with her, Grace spoke about the fragility of life and the importance of cherishing every moment. "This house," she said, her voice steady despite her condition, "is more than walls and furniture. It's a home, a place of love and memories. It has to stay that way, no matter what happens to me." Olivia nodded, tears welling in her eyes. It will. Mom. I promise. Her words carried the weight of a vow, one I silently shared. Grace had given us so much. Not just materially but emotionally. She had shown us what it meant to live with compassion and purpose. And we owed it to her to carry that forward. Over the next few days, as Grace rested and regained her strength, Olivia and I spent time reflecting on the impact she had on our lives. The mansion, once a symbol of grandeur and isolation, had become a sanctuary for healing, growth, and love. Do you think we could do more with this place? Olivia asked one evening as we sat in the garden. I looked around at the sprawling grounds, imagining the possibilities. I think Grace would love that, I said. Opening it up to the community, sharing the kindness she's shown us, it feels right. Olivia smiled, her eyes alight with determination. Then let's do it. For her. The decision marked the beginning of a new chapter for the mansion. One that would honor Grace's legacy while forging a future rooted in her values. As we planned, I felt a renewed sense of purpose. Grace's heart attack had been a wake-up call, a reminder of life's fragility, but it had also strengthened our resolve to make every moment count. Together, we would ensure the mansion remained a beacon of love, hope, and resilience for generations to come. After Grace returned home from the hospital, the mansion's atmosphere shifted. Her recovery brought both relief and an awareness of the fragility of time. Each moment with her felt like a gift, a reminder of the profound impact one person could have on so many lives. Grace, though visibly weaker, maintained her unwavering spirit. She spent more time sharing her thoughts, her memories, and her hopes for the future. One evening, as we sat together in the library, she spoke candidly. "This house has seen so much," she said, her voice soft but deliberate. "It's a part of who I am. But it's not just mine anymore. It belongs to all of us now, to you, Olivia, Noah, and the lives we'll touch together. I want it to be a place where love and kindness thrive. Long after I'm gone." Her words carried an unspoken weight. Though none of us wanted to admit it, we understood that Grace's health was fragile. Yet her determination to leave a meaningful legacy inspired all of us to think about how we could carry her vision forward. Over the next few weeks, Olivia and I began planning ways to transform the mansion into a space that could serve the community. Grace's love for art and culture became our starting point. Olivia suggested hosting local art exhibitions and workshops for children, while I proposed setting up a program to support single mothers like myself. "We could create a network," I said, excitement growing as I spoke. "A place where women can find support, resources, and hope, just like Grace gave to me." Olivia's eyes lit up. "I love that idea. Mom would be so proud." The first event we organized was an art exhibition dedicated to Grace. We reached out to local artists, inviting them to display their work in the mansion's grand hall. The response was overwhelming, and the event quickly became a celebration of creativity and community. The day of the exhibition was bright and warm, the perfect backdrop for the energy that filled the mansion. Families wandered through the rooms, admiring the art while children laughed and played in the garden. Grace, though still recovering, insisted on attending. She sat near the entrance, her presence a quiet yet powerful reminder of why we were all there. As I watched her interact with visitors, sharing stories and offering words of encouragement, I felt an immense gratitude for the woman who had changed my life. She had given me more than a home, she had given me a sense of purpose and belonging. Noah, now toddling around with a newfound sense of independence, was the star of the day. He greeted everyone with a wide, toothy smile, his joy infectious. Watching him thrive in this environment, surrounded by love and positivity, filled me with a profound sense of hope. Later that evening, as the last guests departed and the mansion settled into a peaceful quiet, Olivia and I sat in the garden with Grace. The moonlight cast a soft glow over the grounds, illuminating the flowers Noah and I had planted together. "You've made this place more beautiful than I ever imagined," Grace said, her voice filled with emotion. "This is exactly what I hoped for, a place where people can come together and find a sense of connection." Her words stayed with me as we continued to expand the mansion's role in the community. We established regular programs, from cultural events to educational initiatives, each one reflecting an aspect of Grace's values. The mansion became more than just a home, it became a beacon of hope for everyone who entered its doors. In the years that followed, Grace's influence lived on in the lives she touched. Olivia and I worked tirelessly to preserve her legacy, ensuring that the mansion remained a symbol of resilience, compassion, and transformation. Noah grew up with the mansion as his playground, its walls filled with memories and lessons about love and empathy. He often tended to the garden, his favorite spot being the bed of lucky flowers we'd planted together. "Look, Mom," he would say, his eyes shining with pride. "They're growing so big. Grandma would love this." Each season brought new blooms, and with them, new stories to tell. The mansion, once a symbol of isolation, had become a place of renewal and growth, its history intertwined with the lives of those who called it home. As I stood in the garden one evening, watching Noah play under the fading light of the setting sun, I felt an overwhelming sense of gratitude. Grace had shown me that even in the face of life's greatest challenges, kindness and love could create something extraordinary. Her legacy wasn't just the mansion, it was the lives she'd changed, the hope she'd inspired, and the love she'd shared. And as long as we carried those lessons forward, her spirit would remain with us, a guiding light in our journey toward a brighter future. In the end, the mansion stood as more than just a structure, it became a living testament to the power of love, resilience, and the kindness that transforms lives. Grace's legacy thrived in every smile, every new beginning, and every moment of hope shared within its walls. For Olivia, Noah, and me, it wasn't just a home, it was a sanctuary, a reminder of what it means to give selflessly and live with purpose. As the seasons changed and the garden blossomed, so did our lives, rooted deeply in the values Grace had instilled in us. Though she was no longer with us, her spirit remained, woven into the fabric of every decision we made and every life we touched. If this story inspired you, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to Life Stories for more heartwarming tales of love and transformation. See you in the next story.